Middlesbrough are facing a huge test as they go into the second championship game of the season. The Teessiders are travelling down to London to take on Millwall at the Den in what is sure to be a really fiercely battled contest in South London. Now, for Middlesbrough, this represents a real opportunity to get things back on track. Things went well during the first week of the season. We got a 1-0 victory over Swansea City at home. It wasn't a spectacular performance, but it was 3 points nonetheless. But then the wheels fell off somewhat on Tuesday night when we played Doncaster Rovers in the Carabao Cup, losing 4-0. Now, we did make 4 changes to the team for that one, and I think the focus from Rob Edwards is really kind of getting back into the swing of things on the league front, and trying to pick up a victory, I guess, off the back of that result against Swansea last Sunday, and really kind of making sure that we can make it 2 wins from 2, to really kind of put down a marker of what we intend to do in the Championship. Now, of course, Millwall are a side who are going to make things very, very difficult for us. They're a side who I personally have predicted will be in and around the top 6 come the end of the season. They're a really strong side. We obviously know a few of their players already, most notably Josh Coburn, who signed for Millwall for a fee of £5 million earlier in the summer. He was a player who was very highly rated at Middlesbrough, and I know that a lot of supporters would have actually preferred him to stay at the Riverside Stadium going into this season, given our lack of attacking options at the moment. But Rob Edwards spoke a little bit about Coburn in his pre-match press conference ahead of this game, and he was kind of saying that Josh made it very clear that he wanted to move on, and you can't really blame him. He spent last season on loan at the Den, enjoyed a really good campaign, scored some important goals, and was a really important part of Alex Neil's plans. So you can't blame him for wanting to go off to Millwall. You just got to hope that he doesn't come back to haunt Middlesbrough this weekend, because it's just written in the stars that would probably happen. It would just be just typical of Middlesbrough's luck. But I think for Middlesbrough, the main focus has to be on trying to get a positive result. I mean, I personally think that anything other than a defeat is a good result away at Millwall. If we can avoid defeat, and even if it ends up being a 0-0 draw or a 1-1 draw, I think that would be a good result, all things considering. I think at present, I think Millwall are probably a stronger side than what we are, and so we do have to go into that game up for the battle, up for the fight, and making sure that we are scrapping for every ball, and we're in a really good position to try and get a good result, because ultimately we need to put that result against Doncaster behind us and make sure that we are in good form going into a quite tricky run of fixtures with Millwall and then Norwich City and then Sheffield United coming up just after that. Now, this week in the transfer market, it's been busy, to be honest. Middlesbrough have signed Sontje Hansen, I should say, from NEC in the Netherlands. He's arrived during the middle of this week. He should be in contention to play against Millwall. It sounds from what Rob Edwards was saying that he's been suffering with illness a little bit over the last couple of weeks. He has trained over the last couple of days, so he is in contention to play at the Den. I do firmly expect him to be in the matchday squad as well. Whether he starts the game is a different matter. I think given his lack of training time, it's potentially likely that he's not going to be starting the game. He could well be someone who comes off the bench and is sort of eased into the fold a little bit. Rob Edwards also provided an injury update on a few other players, with Finn Azaz being a notable mention. He's someone who missed the first game of the season against Swansea. He's on his way back to fitness now, but it's unlikely that he's going to be rushed to play against Millwall. Law McCabe went off midweek with cramp, but he's going to be available. And Alfie Jones also suffered a cut to the head. You may remember he was all bandaged up during that game against Doncaster, but he's going to be fit and available going into this game as well. So I think as far as the team selection is concerned, I think that Rob Edwards has some decisions to make. But I think from my point of view, I'd probably be keeping a fairly similar lineup to the one that started against Swansea. I think that includes Soldrin in goal. I don't think Tom Glover did anything against Doncaster to suggest that he's capable of being Middlesbrough's number 1, in my opinion. So Soldrin should come back in between the sticks. In central defence, I'd be sticking with the 3 that started against Swansea last week as well, with Luke Ayling, Dale Fry and Alfie Jones. I think they performed pretty well. We looked pretty solid and pretty tight against Swansea. All 3 of them did well. I think Luke Ayling in particular was quite impressive. I don't think many people expected him to be playing in central defence during that game. I think they thought that given that Callum Britton had arrived, he'd probably be having to settle for a place on the bench, but he performed well. So I'd be wanting to keep that trio in place if possible. Callum Britton, he's almost certain to start. There's not really any other options at right wing back unless it was Luke Ayling. And at left wing back, I'd be having Sammy Silvera in the side as well. He didn't play against Doncaster midweek. He was given a rest for that game, but against Swansea, he looked really promising. He wasn't perfect by any means, and I don't think he's the long term solution at left wing back. But he did show moments of promise. He was more than happy to get on the ball and try and drive at his opposition man and get into the final third and cause some problems, which was good to see. But he also worked hard and he was tracking back and putting in challenges and that sort of thing. So I think for me, what he's done with that performance is, yes, as I said, he might not be a regular starter at left wing back. Hopefully, we'll be able to sign someone new who can slot into that role. But I do think he's played himself into contention to be part of Rob Edwards' squad this season, which even for Silvera is a big achievement given how sort of low his stock was at the start of the summer. I think a lot of people thought that he would be moving on this summer, just given how given how his Middlesbrough career has gone so far. He wasn't great in his first season. Last season, he had loan spells with Portsmouth and then with Blackpool. Neither of those loan spells worked out particularly well, so I think a lot of people thought that he could potentially be sold on this summer. But I think his attitude and his performances so far have earned him a place in Middlesbrough's squad, at least for the time being. So I'd be keeping him at left wing back. Central midfield, I think while everything is as it is, you'll be looking at Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney in central midfield. They're far and away Middlesbrough's best two central midfielder options at the moment. Aidan Morris is undroppable. Hayden Hackney, while he's at the club, is undroppable. We don't know what's going to be going on with him in terms of if there's going to be someone else coming in for him. Obviously, he had the interest from Ipswich Town, who had a £20 million offer accepted. Hackney turned them down, and since then, nothing really has happened. So I think while things remain quiet, it seems like his attitude is good, and he's still fully focused and fully committed to Middlesbrough, which is great to see. I think while that's still the case, he's got to be in that starting 11 alongside Aidan Morris. Law McCabe, possibly disappointed a little bit against Doncaster. I know he's a young lad, but that was a big opportunity for him to impress. Abdoulaye Kante, I think a lot of people were quite happy with what they saw from him, both against Swansea and against Doncaster. He was busy. He was intercepting the ball. He was really kind of showing what he's all about as a player. I don't think he's quite ready to be starting games in the Championship just yet. Particularly against a team as difficult as Millwall. So I'd be keeping Hackney and Morris in there. But certainly I expect Kanté to play a role at the Den, and I don't think it'll be too long before he's forcing his way into contention for the starting 11. It may be that he's waiting for Hayden Hackney to leave potentially, and then he might slot in alongside Aidan Morris or perhaps Nipan, who's going to be arriving on loan from Manchester City. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch out for, and we'll come on to that in another video. But yeah, Morris and Hackney in central midfield, as far as I'm concerned. The two players supporting the attack, I'd probably be sticking with the two that played against Swansea. I think that's Morgan Whittaker and that's Delano Bergsorg. I don't think either player was outstanding. Bergsorg he's quite average. He has little streaks where he's looking really, really good, but other than that, he does work hard though. He likes to get on the ball and he does use his pace and power to cause problems for defenders. Morgan Whittaker, he's got a couple of critics at the moment, but I do certainly think he's probably one of Middlesbrough's brightest attacking talents at the moment. I just think he needs a goal. I think if he can find the bottom corner with one of these shots from range, I do think things will change, and I think that he's a player who has the potential to be a double-digit goal scorer for us this season. But I do just think he needs that first goal in a Middlesbrough shirt to sort of boost his confidence and to get fans on side. But I think at the moment, with people like Riley McGree out injured, with Mika Hamilton not quite ready, Marcus Force, he's not there. I don't think he's going to be playing a key role for Middlesbrough's first team. I do think that Morgan Whittaker does need to stay in the starting 11, and he's probably a better option than what we've potentially got. We mentioned about Sontje Hansen, the fact that he's just arrived and the fact that he's been ill over the last couple of weeks to me suggests that he might well be named on the bench for this one. It's not to say that he won't come on at some point in the game. He may well start because who knows, but it may well be that he starts on the bench, comes off, tries to make an impact in the second half. But in terms of the starting 11, I'd probably be sticking with the two players who have been in the Championship, sort of know what it's about, know Middlesbrough's system, and ultimately they'd be the sort of, I guess, safe pair of hands, you could say, going into this game. Up front, you'll be shocked to hear that it's Tommy Conway that I'm selecting. We don't really have many other options in attack. As I said, Marcus Force, he's looking like a player who could potentially be leaving before the end of the month. Delano Bergsorg, he's not an out-and-out number 9. He's probably going to be playing in one of those supporting roles, and I think for Middlesbrough, it just kind of emphasises the need to bring in a new striker before the end of the month. But until that happens, I think it's got to be Tommy Conway. He'll be desperate to get a goal against Millwall to open his account for this season. He enjoyed a really good debut season with Middlesbrough last term. He's been a little bit quiet in Middlesbrough's first 2 games, albeit he's playing a slightly different role. He's playing, yes, as a number 9, but he's very much confined to the width of the penalty area, whereas normally he's kind of using his running and his work rate and his closing down to kind of cause problems for defenders right across the back line. He's doing something a little bit different this season. So he has been quiet by his usual standards, but I'm certainly keen to see more from him, and hopefully he can get a goal to give himself a confidence boost and get his season underway. So that's the starting 11 that I'd pick against Millwall. I think in terms of the result, I think it's going to be a tricky one. I don't at all think that Middlesbrough will go there and get a victory, I'm afraid. I think that Millwall are a really good team. They're really well organised, done some good business this summer, as I mentioned, with Josh Coburn and people like Alfie Doughty joining them as well from Luton. I think they've got a really good, solid squad who are likely to be in and around the top 6 come the end of the season. So I think for me, a good result would be a draw. I'm predicting that there'll probably be goals in this one. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw for this one. So I want to know what you think about Middlesbrough's match at the Den, who you think should start, what you think the score will be. So drop into the comments below. Let me know what you think of this one. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like, please do hit subscribe, because there's going to be plenty more coming up very soon. I'll catch you later.